What's going on, folks? JV Wins Dogon SS. We are back once again with another video. Major shouts out to everybody who's been checking in with us, subscribing to the channel, hitting that like button, leaving those comments. Let us know what you think about the content that we post to the channel. We greatly appreciate it. We do not take for granted the effort and commitment that is implied by hitting that subscribe button. Speaking as someone who does not subscribe to, I probably don't subscribe to 10% of the content that I consume on YouTube or any other channel. So for me to make the effort to hit that subscribe button shows a level of commitment that I have and a level of appreciation for whatever channel that I'm subscribing to. So for those of you out there who subscribe to our channel, we don't take it for granted. We certainly appreciate it. JV Wins Dogon SS right back in your ear once again. Before we get started, I do want to say, as always, check us out on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Amazon Music. Just trying to be available in all places where possible. Also, you can now check us out on TikTok as we share a lot of our content over there on that platform as well. So if you find yourself more active on TikTok than YouTube, just search Con Approach just search us at Con Approach, CONAPPROACH. That is where we reside over on TikTok. So thank you, everybody. And if this is your first time checking out our channel, give us a watch or a listen. And if you like what you hear or see, subscribe to the channel, because this is how we like to kick it. This is how we get down each and every week, each and every day, each and every video upload. Now, with that out of the way, we can go ahead and dispense with the pleasantries and get right into it. First topic that we are going to talk about is Nelly, who is clapping back at a lot of his naysayers who keep bringing up the fact that he performed at Donald Trump's inaugural ball back in January. Another individual who seems to catch a lot of heat and take a lot of criticism for performing at a GOP/Trump event is Snoop Dogg, who has also had to address this several times in the past. But Nelly, he performed at the inaugural ball this January. There was a lot of controversy surrounding it. A lot of people didn't like it. A lot of people from the community, as well as a lot of anti-Trumpers and anti-Republican people, took issue with this. They feel as though it sends the wrong message for you to perform on behalf of any event associated with the Orange Man. And when given the opportunity, people are going to speak out against you and the fact that they don't like the fact that you elected to do this. And, Nelly has responded by saying, I'm not politically inclined. Me performing is in no way an endorsement of any particular candidate. I just respect the office, and I'm going to show my respect for the office by taking this check, because they do get paid to perform at said events. And, he's just not here for the slander. So once again, he is responding to all of the people who do not like the fact that he performed at Donald Trump's inaugural ball earlier this year. And he made a couple of interesting comments in relation to it by calling out Kamala Harris, saying, people like him and Snoop Dogg have done far more for his community than Kamala Harris has ever done. And he even called out the fact that Kamala Harris is not married to a member of the community. So I thought that was quite interesting. But this says Nelly calls out Kamala Harris for marrying a white man amid Donald Trump performance backlash. Nelly has been on the receiving end of some serious backlash ever since he performed at Donald Trump's inaugural ball in January, and he continues to fire back. Recently, for example, he wrote a lengthy message in the Shade Room's comments section. In it, he suggested that he's more pro-black than Kamala Harris. He also defended Snoop Dogg's decision to perform at Trump's crypto ball this year. I'll put whatever up on me and Snoop do more in the community and have been doing more for over 20 plus years against any of you that are on here just talking trash and have no stats to back up what you mean to the community. From the black families that we employ to the black children that we help every day and all year through our nonprofits. And on top of that, we are black men married to beautiful black women with black children, he continued. Should be inspiring to most, but some of y'all have a problem with because the prosecutor, who has probably locked up more blacks than we've helped women of color, um, with the white husband, did not win the election. Let me read that again because that's written weirdly. Should be inspiring to most, but some of y'all have a problem with because the prosecutor, who has probably locked up more black than we've helped women of color with the white husband, did not win the election. That was written very oddly, but I think y'all get the message.
Yeah,
Again, I reiterate, I did not campaign for anyone. I do not tell people who to vote for. I respect and love our country from top to bottom, good and bad. Nelly's latest remarks come after he discussed his controversial decision to perform at Trump's inaugural ball with Ebro Darden on Hot 97. He insisted that the performance was not necessarily a reflection of his political views, claiming that he didn't endorse anyone. What you have is respect for office. I never endorse any president, he said. And it's great how people spin narratives to best fit whatever they're against, he added, instead of giving a brother the exact fundamental of what he did and what he said. So that is Nelly saying his piece. So he is saying people like him and Snoop have done more for black people than Kamala Harris, who was a prosecutor and probably locked up more black people than the amount of people they've helped. And then he also pointed out that they're married, him and Snoop married to black women, whereas Kamala Harris married to a white guy. So what did you think of Nelly's comments there?
yeah. I feel as though, you know, I mean, of course, everybody's entitled to their opinion, but some level of hypocrisy in there, from the standpoint that, he only performed at the inauguration because he doesn't see any political sides or what have you. But him, throwing it off the backboard and doing the East Bay and dunking it all over Kamala for what she has not done for the community, and saying that she's a prosecutor, slamming up black people. Um, that kind of tells me where you stand at politically. Um, so if you were a neutral person, you would dunk on both sides of the aisle, much like myself. Everybody gets it. Don't stand in the paint because I'm coming down the lane. So, however, it seems as though he's not dunking on Trump because, well, he's the winner and he paid him. But it still seems as though that he should have came at this another way if he's hollering that he's politically neutral. So since he came at it the way that he came, which I don't disagree with, you know, in the sense that, yeah, her prosecution record is absolutely disgusting, and for some of the things that she actually did, which is public record, on how she colluded and got weird while she was in that position. Yeah, it doesn't speak well for how she viewed, the people in the state of California. So how would she have viewed the entire nation? On top of that, there's also clips out there floating around where, she's being asked about what would she do for black people when she gets in office, and she was like, well, I'm not going to do anything specifically for black people. I'm not going to do that. So she has a record out there that I agree with Nelly. However, if he's hollering at this, he's politically neutral. I would have taken my beef out with the shade room commenters another way, to stand on the fact that you're claiming that you're politically neutral. But because he took that stance, it doesn't seem like he's so neutral. It seems like he does agree with the side of the aisle that he also took a check from. So, not that I disagree with Nelly. Now, granted, Nelly has also done a large detriment to our community. So has Snoop Doggy Dogg. I remember late nights when I should have been going to sleep and getting ready for school. I'm sitting here watching Nelly slide credit cards down a woman's derriere. And so, now that had an impact on me as a young person. Did I want to do that when I got older? No. Derivatives of it? Absolutely. And I'm pretty sure that that video, amongst other things that Nelly has done, has also shrouded the minds of the youth that were coming up and put them down a lane of toxicity. So he may be able to speak on the fact that he's helped people out in his community and people in his own family, but the levels of detriment that he has done can't be quantified, because he has put out a level of toxicity amongst his music and music videos that I would say that also has done a number to our people. So how do I feel about this overall? I feel like they're both losers in my book. And they're both standing in the lane, and they're both about to get Vince Carter, and I'm about to hop all over them and slam it down their face. Now, what are your thoughts on Sir Nelly clapping back at the Shade Room comment section, saying that, hey, he's done more for Black people than Kamala ever has? What are your thoughts, bro?
I hear where he's coming from. I also hear where you're coming from. I think he brought up an interesting point when he mentioned the fact that Kamala Harris is married to a white guy. Now, if you ask me personally, and I've spoken on this channel before, I kind of feel like in this day and age, people are going to more frequently explore all of their options when it comes to who they choose to sleep with and marry and have children with. Personally, I am not offended by it, although I respect the opinions and views of others who feel some type of way about it. I don't feel that people who don't like it are in the wrong, nor do I feel like people who do explore options and swirl, do things interracially are necessarily in the right. I am a neutral party when it comes to this conversation. I kind of feel like people are going to do what they do, and I don't think that that is an assertion of their character if they elect to do so. However, the only reason why I do believe it's worth bringing up is because we are very much still living in a social climate in which the second a black man chooses to not be with a black woman, it becomes a matter of national discourse. Now, we want to question his blackness, his level of commitment, his level of responsibility, uh, his level of attachment to uplifting the community overall. Whenever we see that he is not with someone who looks like him, and we want to question his motives, we want to discover whether there's anything ulterior about it, whether there is anything ulterior about him, or whether there's anything inauthentic about him. Yet we never seem to pay that same level of scrutiny to women who do the same thing. So I do think it is worth mentioning because there is, to me, a very clear and glaring double standard when it comes to this stuff. And I have mentioned in the past, there are several examples to which I can point to this. Serena Williams famously seemed to have a penchant for being with men who were not black. She wasn't necessarily criticized for that I saw. She was more so celebrated for it. You have people like Halle Berry, who, while she was young and in her prime, was often with European men and white men. And now that she's older and well past her prime, she's with an older black man. But she spent a large portion of her childbearing years with men who were not black. I brought up Tika Sumpter is a pretty nice actress, a very attractive woman. I think very highly of Tika Sumpter. I think she looks real good. So if you don't know anyone who doesn't know who Tika Sumpter is, she played Kevin Hart's wife in the Ride Along movies. That's Tika Sumpter. Married to a white guy. You look at people like Patina Miller, who is the star of a television show that 50 Cent claims authentically represents Black and Latino communities. On Raising Canaan, she plays Canaan's mom on Raising Canaan, married to a white guy. And then you look at somebody like Malika Andrews, married to a white guy. Now, do I care that these women are married to white men? No, I don't. Except for when this type of conversation comes up, an individual in Nelly's position, were he married to a woman who's not black, would be getting absolutely destroyed. So there is clearly a double standard when it comes to stuff like that. Therefore, I do believe it is worth noting because women, black women who do marry outside, don't seem to face the same level of scrutiny. So it is worth pointing that out. Now, one can say black men have a higher burden of responsibility because it is a black man's responsibility to keep the wealth within the community, blah, blah, blah. Okay, well, then if that's true, and I am to believe the statistics that routinely get thrown in my face, that black women are outpacing black men in terms of earnings and income and career opportunities and education, then at that point, shouldn't there be a greater equivocation for that level of responsibility to community on the part of black men? I would say so. If they're earning just as much, if not more money, and they're in higher paying positions, they're clearly the most enrolled. They're the most involved in the modern day workforce, I would say, gainfully employed, then I would say there needs to be a level of responsibility accorded to them that at least in some way, shape, or form equivocates that level of responsibility for black men. So that you know argument to me doesn't wash. And then when you talk about um what a black man's responsibility is to his community with respect to who they choose to date and marry, um, that says to me that we still believe that black men retain a certain level of importance and responsibility when it comes to the household and the nuclear family unit. Yet at every turn, I seem to be engaging with content from people, women in very prominent positions in our society, who seem to spare no expense when given the opportunity to marginalize black men. Last week, we talked about Michelle Obama, who seems to relish in the opportunity to marginalize her husband and her marriage when given the opportunity on her own platform. And I would say that she has a very sizable audience and people who listen to her and will take a lot of what she says at face value. And she isn't the only one who speaks or lends credence to the idea that black men rather deserve to be not necessarily subjugated, but made diminutive when it comes to this conversation around culture and community and responsibility. There are others, but she's someone with a very sizable voice. And when she speaks, people listen. And for her to now routinely engage in dangerous rhetoric by marginalizing her husband and her marriage when given the opportunity, it suggests to me that she is someone who is, like you would say Nelly is, on one particular side of the aisle when it comes to the perception of black men and the place that they have within community. So, all I'm saying with all of this is let's keep the same energy and maintain a level of perceived responsibility for both men and women in this equation. And if women get to get off scot free, then so do men. And I don't believe anybody should get off scot free, but if they do, they all should be held accountable. And if women get off scot free, then men get let off scot free too. And so I do think it was worth it for Nelly to bring that up, because were Nelly not with a black woman, he'd be getting absolutely destroyed. There is a double standard with this, and I do think it was worth bringing up. Now, to your point, I agree with you. I think where Nelly loses me is he doesn't appear to be neutral. I kind of feel like if you truly are politically neutral, which of course I'm in favor of, because I dunk on blues and reds all day, every day.
all day.
I think that they are both I think they are both operating in the best interest against the people, not for them. So I dunk on them all day, every day. But if I were to accept a check to perform on behalf of one of them, optically it would look as though, in some way, shape, or form, uh, there's something about that side that I don't necessarily take issue with, hence me being there. And I think that if you truly were politically neutral, you just would say no and turn down the check. And I get it. Everybody get to a bag, blah, 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 blah. This is why I say money is everybody's God. People don't worship God anymore. They worship money. Money is their God. You know, to anyone who would naysay against what I just said, they'd probably point to the fact that Nelly went for the bag and got paid. Whatever, bro. If you're going to throw the money angle in my face, then I have nothing to say, because everybody go and get a bag and get money, whatever. But he himself said he is not for any particular candidate. He's neutral. He said that. If you truly are about that, you would live by it and you would turn down the check and you would not perform for anybody. You wouldn't do the inaugural ball, nor would you do the Cardi B Megan the Stallion thing and perform at a Kamala rally in Atlanta. You just play it neutral, decline it decline it at every turn, and just you know flex your muscles in ways that are truly impactful given your particular sphere of influence. But for him to perform at the Trump event, whether he's neutral or not, isn't a good look when juxtaposed to your own comments that you're neutral. So if you really are neutral, you'll turn it down. If you listen to what he says about his money's good. He shouldn't be in need of the money. He sold his catalog for, I think, $50 million. I don't think he's hurting for money. So one would surmise, if you aren't hurting for money and you are politically neutral, that you'd say thanks but no thanks when given the opportunity. But he took the check and performed. So I don't think it's out of bounds for people to look at that with a side eye. So I think he looks like a bit of a fool for going and then turning around and saying I'm neutral. But I also think people who criticize those in his position on the grounds of who they're married to are also foolish, because there's a double standard in play, because a lot of women in that position don't face that same level of scrutiny, her included. When she was campaigning, I was not online looking at a lot of people calling her out for being with a white guy. I wasn't. But let it be a black guy in that same position who is trying to be president and his wife is white, he'd be getting raked through the coals. There is very much a double standard for this stuff. So I do think it is warranted for that point to be brought up. But otherwise, I think he looks kind of corny for pray telling himself to be politically neutral when he still took the check and performed anyway.
Yeah, man. And and as far as the angle of, Kamala marrying a white man or whatever, I do see your point as far as the double standard is concerned. But that's, of course, man, that's life, man. Double standards, they go. And I think there's a fatigue amongst the population, because you know it's a pattern one would notice from people that are in prominent positions, that they do decide to marry outside, and it gets on people's nerves uh after seeing it over and over again. Growing up, I was fans of certain athletes or whatever, and then they'll cut to their wife and it's a white woman, and uh, cut to it's a white woman, and at some point it became a pattern of, oh, I guess when you get on, you get you a white woman. I guess that's how it goes, and you see enough of it. And on top of it, there's statistics that back it up, that per capitas, black men do go out of the race more than black women do. Some people may say this due to various options. All I'm saying is, okay, per capita, that you'll see that more statistically. And so you already know how it goes, man. If you're the minority in something, you can get away with anything. There's stuff that black people could say right now. A white man can't dare say that. That's just the double standard of being the oppressed class. So you get to do whatever the hell you want, more or less. So Kamala being air quote black and being a woman, nobody's gonna bring that up, that she's married that man for political alignments. I mean, she doesn't even bear kids from that man, which is also to me a sign to me, honestly, that she's not even in that marriage for that marriage, because her track record, not only with her, her prosecution record, she also has another record of being a woman who, what I'm saying, um, got her way to the top by getting on top, if you guys know what I'm saying. So she used this because she had a vision to have a political career, and that guy is just a stepping stone for her. That marriage doesn't feel real at all. It literally looks like a TV show thing. I see no bond, intimacy, or anything coming from them. And so he's just a placeholder, which ties into her fraudulent activities and behaviors, which made it hard for people to buy into her in the first place. So, yeah, there was a thing with her being married to a white dude, and no, she didn't catch any flack for that. Um, and but at the same time, you know, to throw that out, to throw that out and say that they're married to a white person, therefore they can't help black people. Uh, I don't know. That doesn't always register with me. And here's why. Because that's because Umar, he likes to get on that stuff too, and there's levels to it where I understand where that argument's coming from, but you know, black is the it's the dominant gene. It's what's happening, and if you raise your kids in a way where um they know who they are, you didn't really you didn't really go far with that, you know. And if on top of that, if you're helping your own people out still, even though you're married to somebody else from another community, you really can't throw too many stones at that.
They do
So
anyway. They still do.
yeah, so I my whole thing is that I feel as though that if the person is out, married outside, and they act outside, their behaviors and everything indicate that they are outside of the community, then at that point you can ridicule them. But if they're still doing stuff for their own people, even though they have a preference in bed, you know, whatever, man. So I don't really get into that. People gonna do what they gonna do anyway. So long as the people that are doing whatever that they're doing in their bedrooms are still looking out for humanity and still doing what I believe is the right thing towards whatever is going on out here in the world. And so if you're a black person and you want to sleep outside, yeah, have at it, man. So long as you're still taking care of indoor things. So for him to just blanketly throw that out there, because she's married to a white man, that to me that's low hanging fruit. I think the part about it that did resonate more was her track record of what she did with black people. So at that point, she not only is married to somebody outside of the community, but her track record also indicates that she don't really care much or hasn't really done much for the community. So my thing is, it's your footprint of what you do for the people, not what you do so much in your bedroom. But what you do in your bedroom can be an indicator. So that's why people like to, you know, where there's smoke, there's fire kind of thing. But I like to separate the two.
Sure. And if the world looked at it with that much nuance, we would be a much better place.
Wouldn't it be, man?
But but the world does not look at it with that much nuance. And
Mm-hmm.
the vast majority of people look at it blanketly and they say it doesn't matter how you carry yourself, what your mannerisms and dispositions and positions on issues are. You married that person or you dated that person. Therefore, you are excommunicated from the community, and it doesn't matter what your contributions are. That is what the majority of us do. Now, I do think that there are certain people individually, there are certain people who look at it with some nuance and they'll be fair minded enough, reasonable enough to say it is what it is, but they do great work and their positions on certain things consistently resonate in positive ways.
Mm-hmm.
But that is the stark minority. The majority amongst us look at that optically and they say, get this person out of here. It doesn't matter what he does, what he says, how he speaks, what he's behind. He's with that person or that person. He sleeps with that person or that person. You're dead to me. There is an absolutist mentality when it comes to that kind of stuff, and I think the majority of us approach it that way. Most people look at this issue the same way that most people participate in voting, which is single issue. Like most people gravitate towards one side or the other over a single issue. So if you're pro-choice, a person can be real shardy and have a bad track record when it comes to criminal justice and uh, have a very sketchy history when it comes to their rise to prominence in their career. but they campaign on pro-choice, and you care so much about pro-choice, you're gonna go to bat for that person no matter what. And that's how the majority of the people participate in this process. The majority of people are single issue. And I think when it comes to this, the majority of people are single issue, which is, it doesn't matter what your track record is per se, but do you, as trivial as it sounds, people really do feel like this. It doesn't matter what your track record is. If you do not date and marry within community, it doesn't matter. We refuse to accept any and everything that you contribute to the world. So I do believe that the truth, as with a lot of these issues, is somewhere in the middle, but right now it is not. And the only reason why I don't blame Nelly for bringing that up, albeit being low hanging fruit, as you indicated, is because despite the fact that it is low hanging fruit, if it is a black man in that same position, he'd be getting called out for that 24/7. Right or wrong, fair or unfair, people would spare no expense to bring up the fact that his wife isn't black. So I'm saying call a spade a spade. And, I hear the point that you made about when you're in the minority of something, you have more leeway, you can get away with more stuff. But I'm telling you, bro, if you look at any current statistic, um, black women are far outpacing black men in terms of education, income, depending on whatever graph or metric you look at. Education, income, black women are more enrolled, black women are more employed, black women are more, black women have a greater foothold in that middle to upper class tier of earning potential. When you're talking about people who are making in that 70 to 80 to 90K range,
Mm-hmm.
all of the modern statistics point to black women far outpacing black men in those seats. So, I don't know how much of a minority they continue to be. And I and I don't know how much of a I don't know how much of the minority clause they will continue to be able to get away with. And I'm just saying, I'm not in favor of it either way. I don't think black guys should be held to that standard. I don't think black women should be held to that standard. Leave people alone and let the content of their character speak for itself. If you're doing good work in the community and you're truly helping people, you're not being shardy, and you are not backing um, things that work to the detriment of people, especially people in your own community. Who you are with, to me, is inconsequential, in my opinion. But given the way things are moving, in the direction that they're moving, in terms of the way this income situation is being set up, that double standard needs to cease to exist. And if you're going to continue to call out black men for that, I don't blame people like Nelly for saying, "Hey, at least I'm doing this," and y'all always call us out for doing it, and she ain't doing it. So why don't y'all hold her to that same standard? It is what it is. I think it's high time for that double standard to no longer be in existence, albeit I understand what you're saying because it still exists. But I don't blame him. I still think he's a clown, but I don't blame him for bringing that up because it certainly would be a point of order if he was in her position and he chose to accept that check.
Yeah, and last thing I'll say about this is, you know, in this analogy, whoever you decide to marry represents the soil, your soil, and I don't care what you got going on, but you can plant in whatever soil you choose to. Okay, but it's all about the fruits that come out of that. And somebody can tell me all the best intent in the world that why they planted in that soil and why they planted over there. That's fine. I don't care why you did that. I'm going to tell by your fruits. And based upon your fruit, I can tell what's in that soil and what's lacking and what ain't there. So, and that can be for whether you married a black person or another
Right.
person or that kind of person. So I base people upon their fruits and not what they tell me. So, and one thing that Kamala's got going on is I wouldn't touch her fruit. I wouldn't touch her fruit at all. She is, or orange man. We already see what his fruit's producing. So yeah, man, both sides of the aisle is trash. But I'll just say this for people that want to get into the discussion of who people marry: is I don't care who you marry, I don't care where you plant your tree at. It better be growing fruit, and if it does grow fruit, it better be good ones. I'd say that.
Yeah, yeah. I just, be neutral for real, bro. I don't like, you can't talk out of both sides of your mouth, accept the check, and then say you're neutral. Like, be neutral, bro. Don't go. Because if you go, it kind of suggests you're not neutral, even if they paid you. So I just don't like that. I kind of feel like you are, I kind of feel like you're a wolf in sheep's clothing. You get to hide behind the idea that you never endorse anybody. Hey, man, I'm neutral. I never endorse anybody, but you still get to take the check. Well, you'll be able to exercise that liberty into perpetuity and fully expect people to not call you out on that. I feel like that's unreasonable. Uh, but at the same time, I also get his point in bringing that up though, because he's not wrong about that. However, it is depending on the individual though. I look at a guy like Chappelle. Chappelle's married to a woman I believe is Filipino, so he's not married to his children are biracial. He's with a Filipino woman. He's never really had to deal with scrutiny because of that. But to your point, that's because of his fruit. So it just depends on the kind of work you're doing out here. But oftentimes, what disappoints me is not everybody is lucky enough to be in Chappelle's position. And I do think that there are a lot of us out here who are producing some pretty clean fruit and they still get killed for stuff like this. And I don't like that. So it's like, if you're going to kill them women who are doing it too, because it's all fair in love and war, as they like to say. Now,
Fair
if you
point.
leave it, if it's up to me, everybody gets judged individually, and that should be irrelevant. But that's not the world that we currently live in.
Fair point. Fair point.